So a neighbor of ours down the street built himself a new dining room table. He built it from scratch. It looks really beautiful. He had this Amish built table that he had in his garage since he was going to replace it and wanted to get rid of it. And he said, if you want to have it, it's yours. And I said, you don't want to sell it to me for anything? He said, no, you can have it. So I am getting ready to start this table. I don't have any elaborate plans for this one. I'm going to restore it to its original finish. I think it's beautiful the way it is. You know, it's got this black on the base and on the chairs, and it's made out of cherry, and kind of a nice cherry stain on here. And so I'm just going to. It's got a few scratches and dings, especially some carving of children's names on the top of this that I need to sand out. But I'm getting ready. I'm just now starting. I've already taken the. You know, it's very simply built, and these wooden chair tops unscrew, and so I've already done 2 of them. I'm going to do the other 2, and then I'm going to start cleaning everything and then sanding and then restore it to its original finish. So I'm going to start stripping the top of this table. I'm going to use a Carbide scraper. I have never used one before. I did a little bit of test back here, but because I really don't like using chemicals. So I'm going to try this and we'll see how it goes. Maybe it'll save me some sandpaper. Well, this finish actually is coming off pretty good, but I've got a lot of scraping to do. It is going to save me sandpaper, and I suppose that I could have used chemicals on this, but like I said, I really don't like using strippers. I just find them so messy, and only use them as kind of like a last resort. So scrape, scrape, scrape. I got a lot of scraping to do. The one good thing about this, you know, it works your arms, so you know, it's going to buff me out a little bit, I think, but. We'll see how all this goes. I've got to scrape the tabletop, I've got to scrape leaves, I've got to scrape the seat pads. So scrape, 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 here we go. I am actually cleaning this tabletop after I had scraped it. I don't really think it mattered that I cleaned whether I cleaned it first or not. I'm not sanding anything down into the surface and scraping it off. So I figured I was going to have to clean it twice anyway. If I cleaned it and then scrape, I was going to have to clean it again. So I figured that I would just try to clean it once after I scraped it. So that's why I didn't clean this first. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong, but that's how I did it. Lots of stuff is coming off. So I've got a lot of cleaning to do. Not only do I need to clean the tabletop, I need to clean underneath the tabletop, I need to clean 2 leaves, I need to clean 4 chairs, and I need to clean the base. I'm using Krud Kutter. I've used it on every piece of furniture that I've refinished, and it seems to work very well, so I'm going to stick with it. So I'm cleaning all these in pieces as I get to them and ready to do something with them instead of cleaning them all at once. So after I do the table, then I'm going to start then on the rest of the pieces and start to sand and eventually start to paint. So I'm going to start sanding the tabletop first while it's still on the base. Once I get the top sanded, then I'm going to remove it from the base and flip it over and sand the underside. I'm going to start with 80 grit sandpaper and moving up to 120 and 150, and I'm going to end up at 180. So a lot of sanding to do, but you know, I'm using my Dewalt Orbital sander. I'm going to use it on the flat edges, and on the beveled I'm going to use my SurfPrep because it's going to be a little easier to control and sand those beveled edges. But for large surfaces, I find that the Dewalt, an Orbital sander just cuts better than the SurfPrep. So I tend to use it on large surfaces. And so I'm going to sand this all down, and then we'll go on to the next step. So like I said before, I'm going to use my SurfPrep to do the beveled edges, and because I can control it better, and it just wraps around those beveled edges a lot better than, since it's got basically a spongy base on it. It'll wrap that sandpaper around it a little bit, and I can control it a lot better than just that Orbital sander. So again, much like the Orbital sander, I'm going to start with 80 grit and work my way up to 180, and then we will be done with this with the top of the table. So as I mentioned earlier, I have to scrape 4 chair tops. I've got to scrape 2 leaves, and then sand all of that, much like I have the tabletop. So here we go again, some more scraping and some more sanding. Same old as we did before. Same story, different day. Before I go any further, I did want to mention that I had to make something that was missing off of this table. What you're looking at is some braces that are underneath the table and underneath each lead. They're kind of decorative, and one of them was missing the piece that has been unpainted. So I had to make that piece, and I had to make it out of a 1/2-inch dowel, and with a router and with a table saw. It was quite an adventure. So if you want to know the details about how I did that, I also have a second video called Router Adventures up on my YouTube channel that discusses all the trials and tribulations I had of making this one little piece that was missing off this table. It sure does seem like the sanding never ends, but at least the sanding from here on out is going to be a little easier. I'm only going to have to scuff sand the chairs and the base, since I'm going to be painting them instead of staining them. So I'm going to be using the SurfPrep with a 220. It's actually a 180 to 220 sanding pad on it, and so I have 4 chairs to do, and then I have the base to do eventually, and then finally I will be done with all the sanding. So nothing exciting here, just using SurfPrep and trying to get all the nooks and crannies scuffed up in preparation for paint.
So do you ever do something that afterward you said, that was a real dumb move? Yeah.
You see this clamp right here? Well, I had said earlier that these curved pieces were held on by pocket screws. And I loosened a couple of them on one of the supports and couldn't get it off. And I thought, well, maybe they're held on by, pin nails also. So I took this cloth, I took this hammer, I wrapped it around here, and then I went whack. And the resulting reaction to that was a crack that I had to glue back together and now let this sit overnight. So I should have quit while I was ahead when they just didn't wiggle off. I should have known. So I'm guessing that they're at least glued on as well as the pocket screws. So, which means that scuff sanding this, like in this, well, you can't see it. Let me just get this down here so you can. Right here, this is just like, it's thinner than my finger can get through. So it's going to be tough to prime, tough to paint. I'm just hoping the sprayer is going to reach it all. It probably will. But maybe I might have to do a little bit by hand. So there you have it. dumb move of the day. So it's finally time to start priming the chairs in the base. I'm using a Graco D360 sprayer. I'm also using Sherwin-Williams Extreme Bond Primer in white. So I've got 4 chairs to spray, and I've got the base to spray. And obviously I can't do all of this in one step. I've turned the chairs upside down so I can get this part of it first. Then I'll be turning them up and spraying then from the top to get the rest of the chairs. After that, I will be bringing the base in, and after the chairs have dried, obviously, and go ahead and prime the base. Now that the chairs have dried, I'm taking my SurfPrep with a 220 sanding pad on it, and I'm smoothing down the primer that has been put on here so I can get a smooth finish when I apply the paint. So I can't do everything with SurfPrep. I also have to use some of my hand because I just can't get the SurfPrep in like between the slats. And I'll just be using a 220 piece of sandpaper folded up just to get into there. But I tell you, trying to work on these chairs is kind of a balancing act. You know, I had them all over the place trying to get them sanded down. But 4 chairs to sand down a little bit here, and then also the base. So I'm now starting to spray the chairs. I'm using a color from Sherwin-Williams called Tricorn Black. I'm using their urethane, emerald urethane trim enamel. This is not going well, and it turned out to be a total disaster. And I will be talking about this in just a second. I really don't know what happened, but the spray pattern is not good. I've sprayed this paint before with no problems. So I don't know what I've done with the settings on this sprayer, but stay tuned. This did not turn out well. Well, I have had the biggest screw up of any piece of furniture that I've done. Spraying this base, these chairs, has been a disaster. I think part of the problem is trying to get all the little nooks and crannies caused me to overspray, and then in some areas which resulted in drips and runs that I tried to catch with the brush but didn't catch them all, as it turns out. And so now I've had to sand everything. There's just drips and runs all over the chairs, as it turns out. And part of it, I think, is the spray gun was starting to spit paint for some reason. I don't know if I had it too high, but it spit paint. So you can see down the road, pop, 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 little splatters of paint. And so I've had to sand all that down. I've been working all morning on it, and now I'm going to go back over it and I'm going to hand do it. Which maybe is what I should have done in the first place. It probably would have saved me, obviously, it would have saved me time in the long run and money in extra paint. So I'm going to start with the base, and here I go. I'm going to hand paint it, and then start on all the chairs. So I'm using a brush from StaalMeester. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I never used before, and using that brush in this spray bottle was interesting to me. Like I said, I've never used this brush, and I got a flawless finish on the base and the chairs. It was unbelievable. So I'm not going to talk about it very much here. I actually produced another video called Fixing a Paint Sprayer Disaster. It's on my YouTube channel. So if you want to see some of the details, look that up. But this turned out to be a lifesaver. I had produced a video before about painting and leaving no brush strokes. Sorry, excuse me. Actually, it was not a video; it was a blog that I had written. And but using this paintbrush took it to a whole different level. So like I said, don't know what all I did on the sprayer this time. I'm gonna have to figure that out. But this brush and that spray bottle saved me. So if you want to know more details, look my other video up called Fixing a Paint Sprayer Disaster. I appreciate it. And we're going to go start staining here in just a little bit. Okay, finally starting to stain the table. I'm starting with the bottom first. I'm going to put on some pre-stain conditioner. It is, if you can see it, it's MINWAX Pre-Stain. I'm going to be putting on General Finishes stain, but the pre-stain was significantly less expensive than the General Finishes. I don't think there's that much difference, so I chose this. So we're going to put this on, wipe it off, and we're going to put the first coat of stain on the bottom of this table. Like I said, I'm adding the pre-stain to the underside of the table. I'm going to be pre-staining all the raw wood areas on all the pieces. You know, the table top, table bottom, the leaves, and the chair pads. You know, the pre-stain it helps to reduce any blotchiness that may be caused if the wood absorbs the stain at a different rate. So I have to do this, and then within 2 hours of applying this and wiping it off, I need to put on the first coat of stain. Now you notice these two brown pieces that are on the table. These hold the mechanism to, when you expand the table, to be able to put the leaves in. One, I couldn't get them off, and then I decided that I'm not really going to stain them or do anything with them, because one, the stain I'm applying is real close to the stain that was on here. These were not really finished very well anyway, because they're underneath the table and you really can't see them. And there's also 4 black braces that are underneath that attached to the bottom of this table that also hide this. Those braces, you know, there's one brace on each end of the leaf, and so it gives it a decorative style for underneath the table to hide, you know, where the leaves attach. So once I get the pre-stain on and it's dried, within 2 hours I'm going to be putting on the first coat of the stain. I am going to apply 2 coats of stain, but I am only going to apply 1 coat of the top coat since it's underneath the table. I didn't see any reason to apply multiple coats because it's not going to get any wear and tear. And maybe I just could have gotten by without putting any top coat on, but I did put a single layer of top coat. So now that the bottom of the table has been stained and 1 layer of top coat put on it, I have attached it back to the base so I can make room to do the same thing to the chair pads. Again, I'm using MINWAX Pre-Stain conditioner, and we're going to put this, obviously I've got to do this in 2 stages, the bottoms and then the tops. So I'm putting the first layer of pre-stain on all the bottoms, wiping it off, and as soon as that's dry, within at least an hour or so, then I will be adding the first coat of stain. Again, I'm going to be putting 2 coats of stain on this and only 1 layer of top coat on the bottoms of the chairs. Okay, pre-stain is dry. It's time to put the stain on. Like I said, I'm going to put 2 coats on and 1 coat of polyurethane on the bottoms of the chairs. I didn't mention it before, but as you can see, I'm using a staining pad that I picked up, and this works pretty good. And once I have all the stain applied, then I'm going to be wiping it off with the grain with a lint-free cloth, and then repeating for all 4 of the chair pads. Okay, this is the bottom, so I actually have to come back and do the tops at some point in time. while this is dry. So while that first coat of stain is drying on the bottom of the chair pads, I'm moving on to do the same thing to the leaves and the tabletop. So I've got to add pre-stain to the bottoms of the leaves, let that dry, apply a first coat of stain, or apply all the coats of stain that I'm going to do, and then the same thing to the tabletop. Obviously the table bottom has already been done, it's already attached to the table. So if you haven't figured it out yet, refinishing a table and chairs is a lot of work. It was a lot of sanding, it's a lot of priming, it's a lot of prep, it's a lot of work. So I'm hoping in the end that this is going to be worth it, and I'm going to be able to find a nice home for this table and chairs. So I'm applying the first of 2 coats of stain on the tabletop. I'm using an applicator pad to rub the stain in and around on the wood. Once I've got the table stain, and yeah, it looks like I missed a couple places on the edge that I'll be going back and taking care of. Once I've got the stain on, I will be rubbing it off with a lint-free cloth. The stain needs to dry for 24 hours before I can put the second coat on. And then after that, it will be time to top coat the table. So this stain goes on very, very nice. I really enjoyed working with it. It's oil based. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I usually like working with water-based stains, but they didn't have the color I wanted in a water-based stain, so I'm using oil.
I know you probably really can't see from this angle, but I've got the second coat of stain on, and looking at this, there looks like there's like, I don't know, fingerprints or something that's underneath the stain. So I've already taken a couple out. I'm taking this so 400 to 600 SurfPrep sanding pad. I'm just taking it by hand and kind of buffing this out. Not really supposed to buff the stain, but I am, so I can pull this stuff out, because I'm pretty much going to look like underneath the poly. I don't want these, whatever they are, to show up. So I'm just going to lightly buff it out. It seems to be working. If I remove too much color, I'll just have to put a little more stain on it, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I really don't know where this came from, but it's sanding out. It's really like sandpaper. Well, it's not really sandpaper, it's a pad. While I'm in the home stretch, I'm applying the top coat to the top of the table. I'm using General Finishes Armor All Seal in a gloss sheen. This is an oil-based wipe-on top coat. Never used a wipe-on before, and I'm really liking it. This is actually my second coat of top coat. I'd already put one on, and I have to wait at least 24 hours. Down here in Florida, it's quite humid, so I'm waiting actually a little bit longer than that to make sure that the top is dry. Then I'm lightly sanding with a high grit sandpaper. I think I used 320, maybe 400 between coats. I'm going to be applying 3 coats in total. So it takes a while. Since the drying time is so long, that means I'm taking at least 3+ days to get this table fully coated. But it's working out really well. I'm really liking this top coat. The wipe on is really easy. It kind of reminds me of that movie. I think it was Karate Kid, where in the beginning he was showing the instructor, I can't remember his name, was showing the Karate Kid how to start getting some skills, and he was showing him wax on, wax off. Well, in this case, I'm just wiping on. Not wipe, well, I am wiping off a little bit, I guess, but it's kind of reminded me of that show.
So I finished putting it on poly. I put on 3 coats of high gloss, and now I'm going to hand rub the finish out. I'm using a 4/0, very, very fine piece of steel wool, and some soap and water, and I'm just going to rub it on here, just like this. Rub it out any little small imperfections. I've already done this on the chair bases and on the leaves. This is the last piece I need to do. Then once I have this on here and I've rubbed it, I'm just simply just going to wipe it off. So this does not harm the surface as long as I don't rub too hard, and it gives it a really nice feel. I've gone back over the chair bases and the leaves with a brown paper bag. I'm not sure it really did anything more for me, so I'm not sure I'm going to do that on this. The last step. Then I'm going to take it into the house. We're going to stage it and hopefully sell it. That just gives it such a smooth finish.
Well, after more work than I ever anticipated, I am done with this table. I think it turned out beautiful. I love the sheen on it. It's very smooth, and I just think it just turned out gorgeous. So I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something from it, and I hope that you also hit the subscribe button. It would help me out and keep the channel going. And I will see you on the next furniture makeover from the next season. Thank you all so much for joining and watching the video.